Henry Hudson sailed into Churchill in 1610, and people have been debating the future of Churchill ever since. Hudson, after who Hudson's Bay is named, brought the European influence and the start of the fur trade. Fast forward 300 years, and Churchill's fortunes are linked to the agricultural industry. Grain that's grown in the western provinces is shipped to the port of Churchill and on to Europe, Russia, and the Middle East. Churchill is Canada's only Arctic seaport, and shipping grain to the north is faster than going across Ontario and up the St. Lawrence Seaway. At times, Churchill's also been a strategic location for the military. The airport is built on the site of an old military camp that existed in the 1940s. In 1953, Canada offered Churchill area to Great Britain for them to test their first atomic bomb. Lucky for us wildlife watchers, they declined. And perhaps because people still didn't understand the value of wildlife-based tourism, in 1957 the National Research Council established a rocket testing facility in the Churchill area. It was closed in 1970 and turned into a Northern Studies Center for researchers and scientists. Now you don't see rockets flying around Churchill, but instead birds and planes bringing tourists for wildlife watching. With no road access, getting to Churchill means a very expensive flight or a very slow train ride. The reason that tourists are willing to suffer either is because Churchill is the most southerly place you can reach the Arctic in Canada, and it's a great place to see very unique wildlife. Each fall about 10,000 people come to see polar bears. The bears start to come onto the land in the summer when the ice melts. They can no longer hunt seals, so they turn to eating seaweed and wandering through town. It makes for some interesting nature strolls. It's always a good idea to make friends with the guy with the gun. Bears that hang around town too much are probably going to end up at the polar bear jail. Each summer there's probably 25 to 30 bears that are trapped and taken to this holding facility. They're kept there until the ice freezes and then released where they go out to hunt seals. Polar bear tourism started in Churchill more or less in 1982 when National Geographic did a documentary on polar bears which brought international attention to Churchill. Now each year people come to ride in the special tundra buggies and see the polar bears. The season is only a few weeks long and the government has capped the number of buggy licenses to make sure that the environment is not harmed. Tourism businesses have started to diversify into other products to bring in more income at other times of the year. There are now dog sledding tours, bird watching tours, tours to see the northern lights, and quickly going in popularity are the tours to see the beluga whales. Every spring, several hundred belugas gather at the mouth of the Churchill River to feed and to give birth. Known as canaries of the sea for their vocalizations, these curious creatures are a whale watcher's delight. They are so curious, and there is no end of the entertainment they bring to a whale watcher. You can snorkel underwater with them, if you have a dry suit, of course. My favorite was kayaking with them. Even though at times it was a little hard to focus on my paddling, like this time when an entire group of them came right at our kayak, swimming underneath and blowing bubbles as they went by.
Oh my gosh.
You can also watch them from a jet boat in comfort. You don't have to get wet, you just have to enjoy the show. If you're like Jackie, you can try to touch them, without falling in, of course. So far, whale watching is a small part of Churchill's tourism industry, but it is growing. And tourism has been a steady employer, unlike the grain terminal. It's lost jobs in the last few years, and there's concerns they'll lose another 200 with the scrapping of the Canadian Wheat Board monopoly. Time will tell whether or not tourism can replace traditional economic activity for Churchill's 1,000 residents, but its unique location and the wildlife that you can see almost nowhere else means that it has a great future as a destination for high-yield tourism. I'm hoping that bears and belugas can bring in the bucks needed to prove that nature tourism is a valuable economic activity and good for the planet. Here's hoping.